Conversations with Co-Pilot, yesterday and today. And this was written by Dave yesterday, so it's only a day old. Conversations with Co-Pilot by Lynn and Dave. Hey David, good morning. What's on your mind? Good morning. I would like to know. What military equipment is the United States going to send to Ukraine in the next 60 days? I don't have current info on military equipment transfers, but the U.S. has been providing various defense systems, vehicles, and ammunition to Ukraine. What's your interest in this? My interest is that it looks like Biden's going to be finishing up the next 60 days as president. Being president, he's going to step down. Trump will take over. I'm just curious if that's quite the hypothetical. President Biden will, provide Ukraine necessary equipment they need to defend themselves against Russia. It's tough to predict. U.S. support to Ukraine has been substantial under Biden, and any future decisions will depend on the administration's priorities and Congress. How do you feel about these possibilities? Yeah, I'm hoping the United States provides some of the necessary equipment needed. Sounds like you're really hoping for. I know they don't want to have the war expand. They don't want this to get out of control. It may already be out of control. I don't know. I don't really know, but it's a delicate balance providing support without. It is a delicate. I'm sorry. Yeah. But yeah, it's like I think that the world, well, the technology is changing the way wars are being fought now, being that they're using drones and they're using absolutely drones. Missiles, shoulder-fired missiles and stuff like that to make some things seem to be somewhat obsolete, like such as tanks and jet fighters don't seem to be as effective as they have been in the past. But yeah, modern. I think that right now, it would be very, very smart if the United States would, if they had extra tanks or extra Bradleys fighting vehicles, because I think this war, if it doesn't get stopped in Ukraine, spread throughout Europe. The Baltic countries, and there's a lot of other countries that are vulnerable. Your thoughts? So I think that the United States and Europe really needs to really ramp up and do everything they can, and not only that, they possibly need to really start ramping up and get ready for a potential war, because this thing could cascade into a much larger conflict. Your concerns make sense given how unpredictable conflicts can be. The balance between providing support and avoiding escalation is delicate. What do you think would be the best way for the U.S. and Europe to prepare for that kind of scenario? Maybe, thanks. Go for it. Ramp up manufacturing, ramping up how much they're producing as far as, or get being prepared, basically manufacturing more artillery shells, manufacturing, ramping up, producing new and better tanks, new and better equipment, even though the United States has probably the most powerful military in the world, but, it's hard to tell for sure. Interesting take. Where, sometimes these things get exaggerated and are not accurate. Yeah, ramping. But the one thing is to start manufacturing more and better warm materials, so just artillery shells and things like that. And the second thing is really important, there are two. NATO, yeah. Increase where the real relationship with the other allied countries, because basically their strength in numbers, or, of a unity of countries get together, stay together, absolutely. Yeah, strength in numbers really applies here. Ramping up production and maintaining strong alliances are crucial steps. How do you think this would affect global dynamics? Well, I really think that the President Biden, before he leaves office, I think personally that he should send over at least 100 Abrams tanks. That's a big commitment. And what are those? One reason is United States has sort of divested itself from tanks that the Marine Corps had, several divisions, I believe, of Abrams tanks, and they no longer are using Abrams tanks. So, I think it would be probably good if the United States could take those tanks that the Marine Corps is no longer using and send them over to Ukraine. You think reallocating those tanks could serve a dual purpose, supporting Ukraine and aligning with the U.S. military's current strategy. Do you think there are other steps that should accompany that move? Exactly. That's exactly right. So it's, and there's some things that are concerning me about the conflict in Ukraine versus Russia. Both sides are taking a lot of losses as far as casualties and soldiers killed. Russians losing, I believe, over 1,000 troops a day. But there's a large percentage of those that are injured, so they're losing over 1,000, both killed and injured. So there's a tremendous losses. And I just don't know how long Ukraine can sustain these kinds of losses. I don't see how long Russia actually could sustain it. I'm sort of curious how this might compare to other wars, or like, say, civil wars in the United States. Civil wars, there were a lot of losses, so I don't know if you would actually have any statistics that can compare the civil wars in the United States as far as troops being killed and injured, to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. It's difficult to find precise stats for Ukraine and Russia's casualties, but comparing to the American Civil War, which had about 620,000 to 750,000 deaths over 4 years, the scale and duration of a conflict have big impacts on losses. Sustaining such losses will challenge any country. Why do you think those casualty figures are so different from other modern wars? I think there's one thing that is a trend in the last 2 or 3 decades. One difference is now that information now is more readily available on the internet, and it could be in the computer. So there's so much, we're getting instant feedback on what's really going on day by day. And I mean, I don't know how accurate these numbers are. I mean, there's a lot of numbers that are published. It's true. And it's hard to tell how accurate they actually are, but they're not they're not mind numbing. They're so high, but maybe that, that's why I'm kind of curious. I know, like during the American Civil War, the North versus the South, there were just tremendous losses, yes. And the battlefields, they were just tremendous casualty. It seems like a lot of times the new modern war, modern like a lot that has modern conflicts, it seems like there isn't quite as many people, soldiers being killed, like the Iraq or the United States went to Iraq several times and then Afghanistan. I don't think the United States really lost the huge numbers that are being lost in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Yeah, modern warfare has changed casualty patterns, possibly due to tactics, and medical advances. Yet intense conflicts like Ukraine-Russia show high losses similar to older wars. It's striking, given everything we've discussed. What's your biggest worry about what's going on in the world? Very. I appreciate you asking that question, because here's the biggest worry I have, which is, if right now I believe the world right now is in a very delicate situation where one of 3 or 4 things I think are possibly going to happen. Right now you have Russia, China, Iran, and maybe several other countries that there are banding together, and most of their government are formed around pretty much autocracy or dictatorships, basically. And you have the other side of the coin, the allies, who are in the United States, England, France, most of the Western countries, are pretty much based on democracies. So there's a bit of a conflict going on between, the East and the West. So I think that one of the 3 or 4 things is going to possibly happen. If the United States can help Ukraine defend itself, it will show other countries like China that we stick by our allies. And I think China is watching very closely what's going on in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, because they are eyeballing. They would like to go in there and invade Taiwan, but they're kind of waiting to see what's going to go on in Ukraine and Russia. So that's one thing that's happening. The second thing that could be possible, could happen, my view is we could have a complete exchange of nuclear weapons, which would be devastating to the planet, could wipe out mankind. So that would be devastating. But so really, I think what everybody's struggling to see or look at or has me concerned is, how can this conflict with Russia and Ukraine end? And a satisfactory method, ways where both Russia and Ukraine are both satisfied about the outcome. Guys, it seems like there's not going to be, any real winners. And, it seems like it's a lose-lose situation in a way. Yeah, finding a resolution that meets both countries' needs is a huge challenge. The potential for escalation is real and the stakes are high. Diplomacy and strategic deterrence might be key to preventing these worst-case scenarios. How do you think we get both sides to the table for a peaceful solution? What really was kind of odd about it, looked to me like Russia will be happy. The only way Russia will be happy is if it takes over all of... Can I get a copy of our conversation? I can't directly provide a copy of our conversation, but you can easily copy and paste the text from our chat into a document on your device. If you need any help with that, just let me know. Yes, I would like to. Can you help me copy the text? Sure. Here's a step-by-step guide to copy our conversation. 1. Select the text. Click and drag your mouse cursor from the beginning to the end of the conversation to highlight all the text you want to copy. 2. Copy the text. Right-click on the highlighted text and select Copy from the context menu, or press Ctrl+C on your keyboard. 3. Paste the text. Open a document or text editor like Microsoft Word, Google Docs, or Notepad. Right-click in the document and select Paste from the context menu, or press Ctrl+V on your keyboard. If you need any more help, just let me know. And what's so bizarre is Dave handed me his headphones for a minute to hear part of conversations, because previously he had just been getting AI results in text format or in print or whatever. But now there's an automated, I don't know if you want to exactly say a machine, but the AI has a tool whereby it sounds like a human's voice. It sounds very much like a real person. What I heard, I couldn't have told the difference. And this was a fairly young sounding male voice with like British accent. So we've spent some time in England, and that's at least what I would say it most closely resembled. And it very much is aware of Dave's prevalence for using AI, and it's just extremely conversational. So that was quite interesting to me.